Welcome back, my lovely, from invisible to influential in just 6 weeks, where strategic leadership coaching meets AI tools that think with you. Here we are at week 6, the final episode in this series. Over the past 5 weeks, you've reclaimed tiger time, built your daily blueprint, mastered the 5 gatekeepers, developed your strategic leadership presence, and packed your emergency toolkit. You've been learning to communicate and show up differently. Today, we're bringing it all together and we'll design your strategic leadership legacy, the complete transformation. So let's finish what we started. I'm sure you felt under pressure to climb the corporate ladder, get the next promotion, more title, more money, more status, because that's how you measure leadership success, right? But this ladder climbing obsession is actually leading you away from the impact and fulfillment that you're really seeking and keeping you trapped in the definition or other people's definition of your worth. You've fallen into what I call the people-pleasing trap. It's one of the self-sabotaging try-harder traps of leadership. It's that pattern that when you're saying yes to promotion and opportunities based on what others expect of you, you feel that you're going to gain approval rather than it being aligned to your true leadership purpose and impact that you really feel that you're meant to create. I often hear I need to get to the next level. Once I'm a senior leader and executive, I'll be able to make a real difference. Success means moving up the hierarchy to prove my worth. I understand this drive completely. We've been conditioned to believe that upward mobility equals that leadership success, that titles validate our worth and please those who have invested in our career. My challenge is this. That's like saying the success of your garden is measured by only how tall your plants grow, ignoring the depth of their roots, the richness of their fruit, or the ecosystem they create around them. Some of the most nourishing gardens grow wide and deep, not just tall. So let me change the frame size. At what level does your title actually matter? If you transformed an entire industry but never got promoted, would that be a failure? If you mentored 50 women into leadership but stayed at your current level, would that be unsuccessful? When you're 80 years old, what will really matter more? The titles you held to please others or the lives that you transformed? The ladder you climbed for approval or the legacy left within people? When you're constantly focused on the next rung of someone else's ladder, you're operating from external validation instead of internal purpose. You're actually depleting the very neurochemicals needed to make authentic leadership presence and meaningful impact. What if success isn't about climbing up someone else's ladder, but about building your own bridge to the legacy you're meant to create? Today, we're talking about escaping the people-pleasing trap by designing your strategic leadership legacy, one that measures not by titles earned, but by transformation. Let me bring it together with the stories of all the women we've met over the last 6 weeks: Sarah, Emma, Rachel, Lisa, and Amanda. Each presents a composite of leaders I've coached through this exact transformation. Sarah started by being caught in the busyness trap, her calendar hijacked by everyone else's priorities. By reclaiming her tiger time, She transformed from reactive responder to strategic architect. Emma was drowning in the lifeguard trap, rescuing everyone, while her own strategic thinking suffered. Through building her daily blueprint, she went from 60-hour rescue weeks to 40 hours weeks, developing her team and improving their performance. Rachel was stuck in the imposter syndrome trap. Her brilliant ideas got lost in tentative delivery. By mastering the 5 gatekeepers, she went from being overlooked to being sought out for her strategic insight. Lisa embodied the visibility paradox, where the harder she worked, the less visible she became. Building her trust quotient moved her from Lisa who gets things done to Lisa whose strategic vision we need. Amanda was caught in the indecision trap, freezing under pressure when she didn't have all the answers. Her emergency toolkit transformed her into the leaders others turn to in uncertainty. None of them climbed the traditional corporate ladder to create their transformation and have a bigger impact. Sarah didn't get promoted. She redesigned how she worked. Emma didn't change roles. She changed how she led. Rachel didn't chase a new title. She claimed her existing authority. Their legacy wasn't built by pleasing others' expectations of success. It was built by creating an impact that only they could make, right where they were, with the influence they already had. 6 months later, the promotions, opportunities, and recognitions flowed naturally, not because they chased approval, but because they became the leaders others couldn't ignore. So, what's really happening in your brain when you shift from climbing up someone else's ladder to building your own legacy? First, there's intrinsic motivation activation. When you're chasing external validation of titles and approval, you're operating from your brain's reward system, constantly seeking the next hit of recognition. But when you shift to legacy creating, you activate neural networks associated with purpose and meaning. This creates sustainable motivation that doesn't depend on external validation. Then there's the identity consolidation. When you shift from becoming to being, instead of constantly trying to prove your worth, you start operating from neural pathways of someone who already belongs. This is the difference between performing leadership and embodying it. The ripple effect through mirror neurons makes this so powerful. When you stop climbing ladders for approval and start building bridges for impact, others register this shift as authenticity. They begin mirroring your purposefulness instead of your anxiety to please. Your team stops performing for approval and starts contributing for impact. Neuroplasticity and habit formation reveals something crucial. The changes you've made, if you've put what I've explained in action over these 6 weeks, reclaiming your time, building your daily blueprint, mastering the gatekeepers, you're literally rewiring your brain. New neural pathways are formed. You're not the same leader you were 6 weeks ago. And your brain has the infrastructure to maintain that transformation. When you shift from an external scorecard thinking to an internal compass thinking, you activate the default mode network. the part of the brain that associated with meaning making and long-term thinking. This is why legacy-focused leaders make decisions that seem counterintuitive, but prove brilliant at the time. And consider the confidence cascade when you're no longer depending on the approval of others for validation. Your prefrontal cortex, the Goldilocks of the brain, gets the neurochemicals it needs for strategic thinking. You're more capable of higher level thinking that creates lasting impact. The people pleasing trap keeps you focused on short term approval, but legacy creation activates the neural networks needed for long term transformation. Your brain is designed for impact, not just approval. When you align with this design, everything changes. In week 6 of the Intentional Leader Blueprint, we teach you to escape people-pleasing trap by designing your strategic leadership legacy. But this isn't just a grand gesture or distant goals. It's about starting intentional impact now. Your 90-day legacy blueprint brings together everything you learn into a sustainable system. It isn't just another goal-setting framework. It's your roadmap where you are the leader you're becoming. The blueprint has 4 foundational elements. Element 1 is your legacy statement, not a mission statement written to impress others, but a clear declaration of the transformation you're here to create. So for our composite leaders, Sarah's would look something like, I help organisations move from reactive chaos to strategic clarity. Emma would be, I develop leaders instead of creating dependence. Rachel's would be, I translate complex strategy into actionable impact. Lisa would be, I ensure excellence is both delivered and seen. Amanda, I guide teams through uncertainty with grace, poise, and purpose. Element 2 is your 4 savvy domains based on the Leader Within method, so that sustainable transformation happens across all 4 areas. Brain savvy, how you'll continue applying neuroscience to your leadership decisions. Personal savvy, how you'll maintain that inner work that supports the outer impact. People savvy, how you'll develop others instead of trying to always rescue them. Change savvy, how you'll navigate this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous disruption with confidence. Element 3, your stakeholder ecosystem, so that your legacy isn't created in isolation. We'll explore who your 5 key relationships are that would amplify your transformation. Not just your boss, but your peers, mentors, team members who can really help you stay accountable to your legacy, not just climb that ladder. Element 4 is your living legacy indicators. Instead of traditional metrics focused on personal advancement, these measure the ripple effect of your transformation. How many people are thinking more strategic because of your influence? What systems have you created that work without you? Which leaders are emerging because you're developing them rather than rescuing them? How has your presence changed the conversations in your organisation? The 90-day legacy blueprint isn't about reaching a destination. It's becoming the leader whose transformation creates transformation in others. Creating your strategic leadership legacy means you'll need to think beyond traditional goal setting to impact creation, which requires a different framework than most leaders use. If you want to start experimenting with legacy thinking right now, here's a simple prompt you can try with ChatGPT. Help me identify 3 ways I can create lasting impact in my current role without waiting for a promotion or a title change. Go ahead, see what it gives you. You'll probably get something like mentor a more junior team member, improve processes for efficiency, or lead a cross-functional initiative. It's practical, it's actionable, but if you're like most people who are caught into the people-pleasing trap, you'll immediately think, but will this help me get promoted? Or what if my boss doesn't notice? How do I know if this is valuable enough? Keep prompting until you get something that addresses legacy, not just ladder climbing. Generic AI gives you activities, but it can't understand the shifts from external validation to internal purpose, or why creating impact without immediate recognition feels so risky because you're used to climbing ladders for approval. Creating a strategic leadership legacy isn't just about setting different goals. If it were that simple, you'd already be focused on impact over approval. What keeps most leaders stuck isn't the mechanics. It's the psychology of people pleasing. The fear that focusing on legacy instead of ladder climbing will slow your advancement. The worry that others won't value impact you can't easily measure. The identity shift from climbing to building. And this is where most AI falls short. Sure, it can create development plans and impact projects, but it can't understand you, the specific relationship with approval, your unique capacity for impact, or how you design a legacy that honours both ambitions and your authentic purpose. That's why inside the Intentional Leader Blueprint, you'll get access to the Legacy Launcher, a custom AI designed specifically around the Leader Within method. It doesn't just help you set goals, it helps you escape the people-pleasing trap and supports you in 5 ways. Designing your personalised legacy statement that aligns your impact with authentic leadership purpose so that you're building towards something that's meaningful and not just impressive. 2, creating your 90-day legacy blueprint with specific actions from all 4 savvy domains, ensuring your transformation is sustainable, not just exciting. 3, mapping your stakeholder ecosystem to identify who will support your legacy focus, not just ladder climbing, building relationships around impact, not just advancement. 4, developing legacy conversation scripts that help you communicate your focus on impact without seeming unambitious so that you can honour your values while maintaining your reputation. And 5, unlocking self-coaching questions like, what am I building that will outlast my title? How can I create value that doesn't depend on others' approvals? Questions that will shift you from external validation to internal purpose. So if you were in Sarah's situation as an example, here's what you would get from the custom AI. Based on your transformation from the busyness trap to target time mastery, here's your legacy blueprint statement. I help organisations move from reactive chaos to strategic clarity. Week 1 to 2, document your target time system and share it with 3 peers. This creates your first legacy ripple. Week 3 to 6, implement the system with your team while tracking productivity gains. This builds your evidence base. Week 7 to week 12, present findings to your leadership, not for approval, but to expand impact organisational wide. Your stakeholder focus, the 3 peers you're developing, not just your boss, whose approval you're seeking. Do you hear the difference? It's not just goal setting, it's legacy architecting. The legacy launcher wasn't helping Sarah climb a ladder. It was helping her build that bridge to the impact that she was meant to create. That's the power of the legacy launcher. It helps you move from people-pleasing patterns or any other try-harder trap that you may be experiencing to legacy creation, from external scorecards to internal compass. So let's imagine what happens when a leader designs their strategic leadership legacy with the right support. Picture this. Week 1, Tiger Time reclaimed. You've moved from calendar chaos to protecting your peak performance hours. This wasn't just time management, it was foundation of strategic thinking. Week 2, daily blueprint built. You've shifted from firefighting to focus. This wasn't just about productivity, it was about structure for sustainable impact. Week 3, the gatekeepers are mastered. You've transformed from tentative communication to confident influence. This wasn't just about speaking up, it was about strategic presence. Week 4, strategic presence developed further. You broke the visibility paradox to build authentic authority. This wasn't just about being seen, it was about being recognised for strategic value. Week 5, emergency toolkit packed. You've learned to lead with grace and poise under pressure. This wasn't just crisis management, it was resilient leadership that others could count on. And week 6, legacy designed. You shifted from climbing the ladder to building bridges. This isn't just about career planning, it's purpose-driven transformation. And here's what complete transformation looks like. You no longer need to be the leader working harder than everyone else but remain invisible. You're the strategic presence that others seek out for guidance. You're no longer in the try harder traps, burning energy on approval seeking. You're focused on impact that only you could create. You're no longer waiting for the next title to validate your worth. You're building a legacy that transforms others right now in your current role with your existing influence. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop chasing approval and start creating impact, the recognition, opportunities, and yes, even the promotions flow naturally. Not because you're trying to please others, but you've become the leader others can't ignore. This is what happens when you learn to think, communicate, and show up differently. This is your strategic leadership legacy. We've reached the end of our 6-week series from invisible to influential, but really this is just the beginning. Over these 6-week episodes, you've discovered the pathway from where you are to where you're meant to be, and that it's not about trying harder, it's about thinking differently. You've learned to reclaim your time, focus your energy, master communications, and build presence, developing your resilience and designing your legacy. You're no longer the same leader who started this journey 6 weeks ago. You've broken free of the try harder traps that keep talented women invisible. You've learned to think, communicate, and show up differently. But here's the thing, transformation isn't a spectator sport. If you've been listening to these episodes and thinking, this sounds amazing, but I need support to actually implement it, you're right. Glimpsing transformation and living it and sustaining it are two different things. The intentional leadership coaching experience doesn't just take you through everything you've learnt in this series, it gives you structure, community, expert coaching, and AI powered support to make it your new reality. As we mentioned, each week we have new custom AI tools that we've enhanced to help support your thinking. If you're ready to stop being the best kept secret in your organisation, if you're tired of watching less experienced leaders get the promotions that you deserve, then join the Intentional Leader Blueprint. Go to sue-anne.com.au/intentional, because you're not just one reconstructed thought away from your next breakthrough. You're 6 weeks away from becoming the strategic trailblazing leader you were meant to be. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, go create that legacy that only you can build. The next series I'll be taking you through is a glimpse into what it looks like inside a coaching session. And to give you a small taste of the power of that journey, I want you to hear from a real leader that I've coached, a woman named Jackie. As she describes the single biggest shift in her leadership, listen to how she moved from doing all the work to building a legacy.
I think how I show up for others is more, I provide advice rather than answers, if you like. So it's lifted me to be able to think the level that I need to think. So think more strategically, and have the confidence to provide leadership and to actually partake in that sort of senior leadership discussions and plans that are needed.
That shift from providing answers to thinking strategically is the heart of legacy work. Jackie's full, incredible story is coming up in this new series. So make sure you are subscribed, because you won't want to miss it. Until we meet again, keep leading with clarity, passion, and purpose.